there, everybody, and welcome to Tisha Talks Live at 10:45. So great to have you join us today, whether you're tuning on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, or you're catching the replay. We just love that you're here. And today I have another fantastic guest I want to introduce you to. And I'll go ahead and put his information up. This is Brad Burchnell. He's out of Michigan. And today we're going to be talking about, let me grab this, put this up. It is From My Heart to Yours. That's his company. And we're talking about the role of Heartset in balance, in life, in business, and all of those fun things. And Brad is the Chief Heartset Life Coach and founder of From My Heart to Yours. So welcome, Brad.
Thank you.
So lovely to have you.
Love it, Tisha. Love it. Glad to be here.
Brad,
Thank you for
Brad
the
and
invitation.
I know, I was just thinking about how we connected. I know LinkedIn is where we connected, and we
Yeah.
just followed each other's journey. And I've learned a lot about him just through the last year. And just happy to say that Brad and I actually get to meet up in real life next month.
Yeah.
July, I will actually be in his hometown in Michigan, bringing all sorts of fun people from Michigan that I know and hosting a happy hour out there. So, Brad, I'm so excited.
I do too. I am as well. And so is Maria. Maria's going, how do you know her? And I said, I've known her for a long time, followed her on LinkedIn. She's just an awesome friend, just a great leader, and she is an absolute joy. And,
oh, yes. And I think we talked about that. Like, I remember I told you that my daughter looked up my name and she says it's Joy. And you were the first person I told. I was like, Brad, You're never going to believe this. My name actually means joy if you check it out.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, good stuff.
Right. You absolutely are. So
Thank you. Well, it's good to be around good people. Hey, I just want to give a shout out to Tomba D. Robert, who's joining us. Thank you so much for being here on LinkedIn. We have some people on Facebook. So just like Tomba and other people who are joining us, make sure you drop us a comment, say hi. If you have questions as we're talking about this topic about Heartset, we'd love for you to chime in and we'll bring those questions in. And we just love to give shout outs. So good things happening. So Brad, it's Friday. What's something you're super excited about today? What's something that you're like, oh, today started off on the right foot? What's something for you?
What's funny is, we have such weird weather here in Michigan. We have sun here today.
You have sun?
We have sun. We had briefly sun. So when I got up this morning, the first thing that I'm doing, I take a look out. The sun's coming through. Have my cup of coffee. I go outside. I'm not real good at gardening, but the last couple of years I've kind of gotten into it. So I have a lot of flowers outside. So went outside, just sat down, and it was just a great way to start the day.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, we have a lot of sun where I'm at in Arizona.
Yes,
and I met with my good friend, James Christensen. Big shout out to him. He's one of my sponsors for Social Connect Phoenix, all around great guy. And I was like, let's pick somewhere in the shade. So we have the nice big umbrella. And by the end, we're just like sweating. Like, I'm like, do you need a sweat towel? I need a sweat towel. I'm like sweaty hug at the end. Like, just it's such a great conversation. But I'm like, can we move? Like, it's just crazy. And you're in the middle of the situation where you're like, can we move to that table? Because I see so much more shade.
Right.
And we won't have to be like drenched as we're talking to each other.
Exactly.
So yeah, that was my kick, off to Friday. And then of course getting to chat with you too. So this is going to be fun. Big shout out to this gentleman who is a loyal fan of Tisha Talks. Hey, Royce Blake, good to see you. He says, hi, Tisha and Brad.
Hey,
Royce, I know you are so good with questions and insight. So I'd love for you to chime in, Royce, as we continue. And we're going to start off. Today, again, we're talking about Heartset and the role it plays for balance in your business and in your personal development.
Yeah.
And Brad and I were talking a lot about this because we hear a lot about the word mindset. And I think we're always like, get your mind right, get your mind right. And Brad's like, you got to get your heart right too. Yeah. So that's what we're diving into. So feel free to chime into the conversation. I think Heartset is, how does it play a vital role for change in your life, Brad?
It's interesting. We were talking behind the green room, and one of the things that I looked at, especially from my reading, was author by the name of Robin Sharma on his website. He talks about this, and it really resonated with me last year, where in order to be that whole person, they talk about mindset, but in order to be a complete human, in order to bring in empathy, caring, how you bring in your best in both your business life, your personal life, and everywhere in between, you have to engage your heart as well. Because it's just not enough to you know, intuitively know. We can see that through the Great Resignation, what ended up happening within the pandemic. We see that there is an outreach. People want that connection. And when they were in that isolation, we saw that so desperately. People wanted that connection. And how do you end up getting that connection? You can't do it just by intuitively knowing it and intellectually knowing it. You have to take that 12-inch decision from here to here in order to really love and engage your people. And that also includes your clients or
Hmm.
your patients or any of your customers. If you're serving anyone, if you don't see them as valuable and know that within your heart, how are they going to engage with you? And also talks about with engagement within social media. It's the
Hmm.
same thing because people don't know that you care until you show them and demonstrate it. And you can fake it, but people are going to see through that in a relatively short period of
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I've always said this, like this is the number one advice I can give people is to be the same person publicly, professionally, and personally. I've said it several times. And because you meet people and you're like, geez, that person is so amazing. Then you get to meet them and it's like a totally different persona,
time.
one that you weren't expecting. And you're like, I don't know. There's a big disconnect there. I don't know if you're really being that genuine, authentic you. And then you kind of part ways and you never know what would have happened.
Yeah,
So I always say
exactly.
that. You're
And
going to meet so many people online. And I mean, Brad, you and I were talking about this. Like, we've met online. I feel like I
right.
have such a great sense of who you are. And then I'm going to get to meet you. And I'm not kidding. There's going to be like fireworks above
Uh,
the
um,
above the venue as I'm like, this is amazing.
it's going to be an awful lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that. I love meeting people. I talked a little bit about that this morning as far as for my journey as far as for my transformation and things that I ended up learning from. Uh, you learn from people all over the world. Francesca Trucarico, messing up her name, sorry. She's one of my favorite people. I see her. She's usually the first person on my feed every day, typically, because she's over in England. And then there is Chrissy Zavakar, she's here locally, and she and I have got to be good friends off of LinkedIn as well. And she talks about different aspects of what she's done in her life and talking about she has a newsletter out there for clean and sober, and she's an amazing individual. So I look at that and I see how that's influenced me and how
Hmm.
that's positively influenced me, and I also recognize it comes from that place of being within, just like you'd have said, they're the same people that you would wanna go ahead and meet. They're the people that, affect you not only intellectually, but if you walk away and you don't feel a change from within, you can know things, go, "Oh, that was kinda interesting."
Yeah.
But how does that affect you in the longer term? Does that leave you as a better human? Does that
Hmm.
affect you in your personal life, your business life, your interaction, your relationships? That really is key within Heartset.
Hmm. What are some of the other benefits that you would say that come with just being in tune with your heart?
I think from my perspective, the more that you're in tune with your heart, it also enables you to find that deeper sense of purpose, of joy, of passion within what your driving force, and then it also follows in with something even deeper. It becomes self trust. When
Hmm.
you end up enabling yourself to tap into that, and you see that self trust, if you haven't had that before, when you're developing your heart set, you become more in tune with that. Not only are people going to know that, it also enables you to pick up on things more intuitively. So there's not that, gosh, I'm just not really sure. It becomes
Hmm.
resonating within you. You don't ruminate, you resonate, you respond instead of react. So now what you're doing is you're getting curious about those things that you hadn't been curious before. Curious about people, curious about your feelings. What does that mean? Curious about triggers. Hey, how did that end up affecting me? And then getting into that point of having that conversation that may be difficult and knowing that's going to be hard, but asking the question, tell me more. When it
Mm.
may not necessarily be good for you, but it's going to be beneficial for you later on.
So, how do you think that heart set plays a role? Just even, I mean, we're talking a lot about personal development too. But I mean, a lot of us tuning in here, especially me, I know Royce, we're business owners. So how
Right.
can Heartset play a role in your business and your
It's interesting.
professional development?
Right. I think, as you look into that, I can give you a really great example. The Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy was talking about mental health with the sailors aboard one of the aircraft carriers, and this is one of those times when I'll call him out. He whiffed the ball. And part of that is you're doing that connection with people. When they ask the question of issues that they were actually end up having for mental health on board ship, there was a lot of construction, a lot of things that ended up going on. They're deployed longer than they've been deployed in a long time. It's
Mm-hmm.
not normal.
Mm-hmm.
So part of that becomes how do you connect with your people? But even more so, you could have clients that are in that very same spot and you could gloss over that. You say,
Mm-hmm.
you're thinking, well, that really doesn't deal with business. It doesn't deal with my bottom line. But you know what? It does because now someone's going to end up taking a look at you and saying, Hmm, you know, they really don't care about me as a client or as a person. They care about me as a sale or they care
Mm-hmm.
about me as the bottom line, but how do they really resonate with me as a person that they say is important to them as a client or as somebody within their business structure? So when you look at that, if you lose sight of that, you now have a a condition, in my opinion, you no longer have a satisfied or gratified customer. You have a completely disengaged and disconnected customer or client. And that can
Mm-hmm.
really harm your bottom line because if you look at it, one of the things that a boss of mine had told me many years ago has been my business mentor. His name is Bruce J. Burton. He was the founder of a couple of companies up here in Michigan. He said,
Mm-hmm.
Brad, the whole goal within business is to have a gratified customer, one that's going to sing your praises to everyone and anyone. He'll be the first person if someone says, "Hey, I'm looking for this type of service or I'm looking for this type of product." They're going to say, "I have the right person for you. You need to go ahead and talk to Tisha. You need to go
Yeah.
ahead and talk to Jason. You need to talk to Brad. You need to talk to Jason. You need to talk to Steve." It all boils down to how do you engage with others?
I love that what you're saying too, because when I enter into an agreement with a new client, for instance, it's never going to be a bottom line scenario of, oh, I made this much from this person. It's never going to be transactional. In fact, every client that I meet with is like big hug, and some of
Mm,
them have moved off, some of them are moving to South Carolina, and they're like,
right.
I so want to see you. Like, let's continue the conversation. When you come here, you always have a place with us. Like, that's the kind of relationships that I want with the clients that I
Yeah.
work with. That it's just going to be very relationship driven. We're in each other's lives for the rest of our lives. It's not a, hey, you worked with me for 3 months and we're over, you paid the bill and we're good. Like, I
Yeah.
hope you got what you wanted, but you were good. Like, I always enter into that agreement with, if you're going to work with me, and I'm sure
Mhm.
you're the same way, Brad, if you're going to
Yeah.
work with me, know that I am in your corner for life. You can
Yeah.
depend on that. You can rely on that. You can come to me. And that's honestly what some clients have come to me and said, I chose you because I know you're going to be
Mhm.
in my corner for the rest of my life. We're not just developing a business relationship, we're developing a friendship, like a
Right.
lifelong friendship.
Exactly. Absolutely right.
Hmm.
I totally agree with that. Because if at the end of the day that I don't feel good with working with a client because of one reason or other, it's okay.
Yeah.
Because it's either that there's not a connection that's there, but at least I'm going to make the best effort possible that I can in order
Hmm.
to assist them in some form or fashion.
Sure.
I
Sure.
just I think that that's also part of the heart set is looking beyond just the now. It's also
Hmm.
asking about give you a great example. Many years ago, I believe it or not, I was actually in the insurance profession, and I was doing commercial insurance. And
Hmm.
there was a gentleman that has a very prestigious uh, architectural firm out of Colorado, and he designs um, golf clubhouses all over the United States. And I went in and I said, "Well, hey, I'm just in the area. Want to come by and just talk to you about your business?" And I just engaged and
Hmm.
got his business. That was great. it was interesting when I was doing the signing with our VP because it was my very first closing. And he said, my VP said, "Well, what was your deciding factor in coming with us?" And he said, "Oh, that's easy." He goes, "It was Brad. He
Mm,
wanted to find out about me. He wanted to find out about my business. He wanted to find out about everything. And then he talked about how he could end up helping, but he was more interested about me and my business." And
hmm.
now he goes, "That's rare."
Yeah, show an interest. Show an interest. People are always willing to share more about who they are, but you've got to ask the questions and be willing to listen. I love this. I'm going to throw this quote up there from Royce Blake.
Okay.
He says, "I'll always go the extra mile for a client I feel connected with."
Yeah.
And I would even say that, as I was sharing earlier about setting the expectation when you're going to start working with a client, that I am
Mm,
here for you. You know, you've got me in your corner. This isn't a 3 month program and then we never talk to each other again. They feel that sense of connection. They feel that you've got my back and I can come to you. And it's not a, nickel and dime, I start the clock every time you call me kind of deal. Like
yeah.
having that kind of relationship, because I'm in a group where it's really more about referrals and creating these raving referrals. And it's, as
Right.
to your point earlier, you said, if I have you top of mind, I'm always going to go back to Brad. I'm always going to go and say, Brad, who do you know that does this? I value your opinion. I
Yeah.
value you. I value our friendship. I trust you.
Yeah.
And that's just going to keep spreading. Like this sponsor that I just met with, again, shout out to James. He's like,
Right.
Tisha, you're on top of my mind for speaking engagements. I'm set to sponsor you again next year. Like that's the relationship that we've
Right.
built over the years. And I'll tell you, it started off of LinkedIn too, off
Yeah.
of him watching videos of me in my car. Go
Yeah,
figure.
the lessons from the Lexus?
Lessons in my Lexus. I've got my next one coming out soon.
Nice, I love that. I think that that's where I think that's one of the things that I love about you and how you end up showing up too, and that's where I get a lot of inspiration is different people, and I
Mhm.
gravitate towards the people that are high energy and have that relatability, and I think that's also another key within Heartset. If you've just had the mind, okay, yeah, you can have people that are really charismatic, but why is that?
Mhm.
When you engage with somebody like that, they're more likely to ask you more questions and them to listen. And you walk away, gosh, it was a great conversation. They may have talked for 5 minutes. You may have talked for 30.
Mhm.
And you walk away, that's like, wow, that was an awesome conversation. And that's really also part of the other component for Heartset that, and especially something my girlfriend talks to me about, when I'm having deep conversations is especially on the hard ones, she goes, "Brad, when you go talk to somebody, talk little, listen more."
Yes. Mhm.
So that's also another component that when you're listening and you're listening with your heart, it's like, "Well, okay, it's not what's being said, is what's not being said." Because
Mhm.
people that just have the mindset and they're saying, "Okay, we're gonna get this, we're gonna do this," and then you're picking up on small nuances within the individual and saying,
Mhm.
"Hmm, what's going on?" And just saying, "Well, let's go and hold on for a second. What's happening with you? Tell me what's going on."
Yeah.
Because I'm picking up on something here that is happening in your life, and I don't want to miss that opportunity in order to see what's happening. And
Right.
it could be something that could be, well, I had this issue that's ended up coming up. Oh, wow, gosh, you know what? I know somebody that can, just like you talked about, I know somebody
Yeah.
can deal with that with. Or it's a harder conversation, and that individual has no one to trust other than you because you've shown up. You are that type of individual. It's especially crucial um, in business today, especially within any environment. Uh, there are instances, especially within mental health and other types of things within business. If you, for example, let's say that you have a high performer and they've
Mhm.
done an awful lot of really good work within your organization. They've gone through a pretty traumatic, issue within their life, whatever that might be. It could be the loss of a child, the loss of a uh, breakup of a marriage. It could be any number of things that's actually going on in their life. And what's happening with that is, you know, you have to figure out a way just to say, you know what, we want to wrap our arms around you. We want you to say, hey, what's going on? We need to find a safe space for you to encourage them to seek help
Mhm.
or to take time in order for themselves in order to uh, get back to center.
Mm.
Here's how I know about that. November 30th of 2020, I was actually in that space. I was
Mm.
diagnosed with PTSD and I was really struggling. So I was really fortunate that, my boss, who was the president of the company, said, Brad, you need to go ahead and take some time.
Mhm.
So I went out for 2 months on FMLA, was able to go ahead and kind of just regroup. It was awesome. Came back and haven't missed a beat. But what happens if you don't have a heart set for people?
Yeah.
Basically, at that point, other than the legal components of it, where you really can't let somebody go, especially if they have a known mental health issue. But
Mhm.
let's just say that they end up coming back and you make it really difficult for that employee to keep on going and flourish, especially when they've been a high performer within your organization. And another organization says, you know what? We don't care about that. As a matter of fact, you're the type of employee that we rally around and we want you to become part of our family, part of our organization because we want to be there for you. And they
Right.
go to another organization and what happens when they start performing even at a higher level because of the way that they are treated in that other environment. So you not only lost an employee, you've lost the opportunity for additional revenue from that employee
Right.
or creation of additional revenue stream because that employee is now going to bring not only the customers that he's bringing in the new ones but also
Mhm.
the old customers that said, I work with so and so and I want to be able to go ahead and work with them again. Now
Mhm.
you not only lose an employee, you lose customer base. What ends up happening then? So it's just not a matter of doing one or the other. It could be too, say, looking at the individual, and say, you know, we need to go ahead and invest in some personal development with some of our key employees in order to get to that next level. And that's where
Yeah.
hard really plays in a bigger role.
No, that's huge. I mean, you just so what's the message here? Value people.
Value
Value people.
people. Yeah.
Meet people where they're at. I mean, I don't know if you tuned into this one. Steve Ricks, shout out to Steve Ricks. He
Mm,
has a book out called Play Saves the Day. And we talked a lot about this. He threw some amazing statistics up there about the same thing you're sharing here, Brad, about if
right.
people don't feel like they're connected at the workplace or that, or like you said, I was a high performer now, but I'm going through a lot of challenges, breakups, kids, these things, like I'm just not myself. You've got to let people get back to center, as you
Yes.
mentioned. You can't just, nope, you're no good. We're letting you go. We're
Yeah.
letting you go. Like it just, knock on wood, I'm not going back to work for corporate anytime soon, but my
Right.
goodness, like I mean, I can't even imagine how people are feeling when they feel like their boss or their team doesn't really understand them and won't let them just be. Like, can you
Mhm.
just let me be in the season of my life that I'm struggling with?
Right.
I know I'm capable, but if you shut me down again, oh,
Mhm.
you're right. Like, I know
Absolutely.
for me, I'm going to use that as fuel. I probably would that person that jumps ship, goes to the other company and brings everybody with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm like
Absolutely.
so much better over
Yeah,
here.
absolutely, and I think that's what employers are starting to find now. It's becoming increasingly difficult to locate not only talented people,
Hmm.
but having people that are feeling connected within an organization. Then coming in, they're going to end up doing their interview. They may pick up on a vibe, but they want to see that connectedness. They want to
Yeah.
be able to take a look at who that person is. Are they the same? Just like you said, are they the same person? How are they going to treat me? Are they interested really in me outside of work? You know, uh,
Hmm.
it was funny. I read somewhere recently, as someone posted on LinkedIn, that the people at work are not your friends or your family,
Hmm.
and that to a degree can be true. It
Hmm.
just depends upon how the company values you and who they see. My same business mentor Bruce Burton used to say, you take care of your employees, they take care of you.
Hmm.
And he always made a point when we had events that the family was there. He made it a point to go to see every single family.
Mm.
We had at one point, oh gosh, I want to say we had well over two or 300 employees.
Mm-hmm.
And he made a point. It was just that was his vibe. And he was extremely interested in people. He just wanted to know, how are the kids doing? What are things that are going on? That's something that he valued. And I think that's the same thing that within business is care about who you care about the people, but also care about everybody else along the way. Um,
Yeah. I don't know if you saw my announcement, Brad. I switched real estate brokerages
I
recently.
saw that.
Yeah, yay! So excited. But I've been meeting with a broker, and he's so down to earth, so sweet. He's like, Tisha, when you're here, just pop into my office, say hi. I'll always make time for you.
Mm,
And he does. I don't have. He's like, you don't need an appointment. If I'm in the office, just come and say hi. And then he's like, "Did you get the notice for the company barbecue coming up? Like all of your
yeah.
family, everybody can come. Like I do this every year." And then I think I might have told you this. Like my whole dream is to like live in Costa Rica in the future. Did I share this
Yeah.
with you, Brad?
Yeah.
So family and I are actually headed to Costa Rica later this summer. And it just turns out that this brokerage also has offices in Costa Rica, and they have vacation rentals. And he's like, Tisha, anytime you and your family want to go, just tell me. I'll block the week off, go down there, like pay for your airfare. And I'm like, are you joking? Like, are you joking?
Yeah.
You know?
I love
I'm
that.
like,
That's awesome.
this is amazing. Like, this is amazing. But I was looking for that because I've been in
Yeah.
organizations where, you're just like, oh, I'm a number. And nobody would care if I was missing or not missing. Like, as long as I'm producing, but they don't really know, they don't really care. And I'm like, gosh, it feels so good to be part of something bigger and
Yeah.
to know that I can go and there is actually an open door policy. There is actually, my door is open. Come in and chat with me, say hello. Hey, can I
Yeah.
get you something for breakfast? Like, I'm like, where have you been all my life? Like, it's like, this is amazing, amazing. So you're right. And that plays such a big part into your
Mhm.
heart set and how you feel valued when you're in an organization. And so many organizations just don't get that they invest in the people,
Yeah.
they value their people, then big things will happen for them. Big things.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big believer in that. You know, you see how things unravel quickly within um, different organizations, especially within a top level change. The whole demeanor of the environment can dramatically shift.
Yes.
And I think that that also boils down to within the heart set, not only with the, with the person that's just up above you, but it really permeates throughout the organization. Is how do
Mm-hmm.
we end up cultivating that throughout the organization? Now, I'm also not naive enough just to say, hey, listen, there are certain times that you have to have hard conversations with people
Yeah.
because they're not performing. But you still can do that with empathy. It could be, instead of identifying, hey, you're a bad person, is, hey, we're noticing behaviors that are contradictory to what we've seen. There
Yeah.
are things that we've established and ground rules that we've had. And we've had these conversations as far as for how we end up assisting you getting there, and you haven't rallied around those conversations.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to have to go to the next level. It doesn't mean that we don't feel value about you. It's just that the behaviors that we're seeing are contrary to what we've discussed previously. And it
Right.
doesn't mean shaming them. It doesn't mean in the middle of a meeting and say, hey, so and so is just, you know, some derogatory term or
Mm-hmm.
negative, connotation. It's all about, you know, it's just talking about it in private, but also owning the scars that we end up having. And that also means, hey, we're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. It's owning
Mm-hmm.
those mistakes, uh, making amends as we can that we're
Mm-hmm.
allowed to, and that builds trust. So you're also building other things you can end up doing as well. So that's how Heartset also plays within leadership, is
Mm-hmm.
also looking and valuing at the person even at the most detrimental time to the organization where they've just really blown it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot different conversation with someone coming in saying, "Hey, you made a mistake," rather than saying, "You are a mistake." Very
Yeah.
different. It's a very different thing, uh, because One is talking about something that they did. The other one is talking about something that they are, and that can have long-lasting detriment to that
Oh my goodness.
individual.
Sure.
So, you don't know where they're at. You don't know how that they're feeling. You don't know whether or not that's a one little thing that's gonna end up pushing them over the edge to something really dramatic and drastic that they may be contemplating.
Well, and I know you have your book that just came out, and I'd love to
Right.
talk about that too. It's From My Heart to Yours. I am not my mistakes.
Yes.
And I like what you just said right there. You just gave us such a golden nugget of if you're in a leadership position and you're noticing that one of your staff members is really struggling, like we talked about, they were high performers, they have these expectations, and now they're just not performing at the level that you think they should be performing at, to call it to their attention, to really have that deeper dive with them to really uncover what is happening in their life and giving them the open space to share it. Because if people feel like they can't share it and they have to carry the burden,
Mhm.
I think it's so good to say, you've been doing such amazing work for us. Like, tell us what's going on with you. Like,
Right.
giving them the floor and being empathetic and doing it tactfully. But I mean, that whole I am a big believer in your tone sets the stage. What you say, words, you can't take those back. It
Yeah.
scars. It
Yeah.
scars people for life. I've had my own stories like that. But if you come to me and say, you are the mistake, oh my goodness, what am I going to feel once I hear that? What is anybody going to feel? Like,
Yeah.
you just pushed me, like you said, you pushed me over the edge. Now I don't know what to do with myself because now I've lost all confidence. I don't know if I can come back from that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that those are things that have a larger conversation, a larger connotation within the that's actually going on right now. I mean,
Yeah.
within my book, I end up talking a little bit about my family of origin issues, the trauma that I ended up having, the things that I used to think that I was,
Hmm.
the bullying that I experienced when I was a teenager, mistakes I made within parenting, the things that
Yeah.
my PTSD, the suicide of my daughter, some of my own issues that I ended up having for mental health and suicide ideation that I ended up having when I was younger, and some of the other things that I ended up looking at, and also my
Hmm.
divorce. But it's also taking a look at it from a perspective of really the observer. It's
Hmm.
a very different perspective in looking at it as instead of saying, well, here I am. It's just, yeah, here I am. But here's the background for the people that were involved.
Yeah.
Here's their trauma. Here's the things that they ended up experiencing. How would you sit in that same exact spot
Hmm.
and be with those individuals? What would you say? How do you reflect on your same life? Has there been something similar? And how would you very compassionately speak to yourself during that time?
Right.
And
Right.
how do you come through that?
Hmm. Oh, good stuff. We have one more quote up here. I say quote. It is quote. It's a quote from Royce. And he says, if people believe you actually care about them, you've surpassed know, like, and trust.
Yes,
Hmm. Yeah,
absolutely,
I agree. And
absolutely.
it can't just be talk, right, Royce? It's
No,
not just talk. You have to actually demonstrate and display that to people that you do. You care about them, you believe in them, you trust them, you're there for them, no matter what hardships they face.
mhm.
All right, Brad, I know we're running a little short on time here. I
Yep,
want to give you the floor, my friend, to talk about your book and how people can connect with you. I know LinkedIn
sure.
is one of those places that you show up quite frequently.
Absolutely. They can
Yeah,
they can get a hold of me at, a couple of different ways. They can get a hold of me at www.ffhtylllc.com, from my heart to yours, llc.com. They can book a complimentary 30-minute meeting with me. They like to go ahead and work together or find out how we can work together, whether that be personal development or corporate development as well for their staff. Love to go ahead and engage with them. Within, they can also get a hold of me at my email at bbirchnell, the number two, at gmail.com, or through LinkedIn. Contact me. Love to go ahead and talk with them. My book, believe it or not, I'm giving away for free.
you are
I'm
because
giving it away for free.
you want to
Uh,
make the impact.
I
Okay.
believe that it's more important to share the information. I tried doing making it an ebook. The formatting came out dreadful. So I published it as a PDF. It's actually, I've already sent out so far 45 copies. People say,
Good.
well, that's not a lot, but that's, it's a ripple in out there, and it's actually gone international. So there's some
Oh,
things that are going really well for it. The whole premise behind it is taking people on a journey of development that they can see themselves. It's
yeah.
very similar to Parable in that they're able to see different components of the people that are involved, the people's trauma, how they end up coming in, the trauma for the individual that's in the middle of it, which is me, how the individual came through that, talking about questions, and then me sharing how I did go through that and what would I say to myself. And I did it as letters of apology or letters of forgiveness within the book itself. So
Oh,
there's
wow.
components that, I'm reading a book, well, for my second, third time through from Kristen Neff called Self Compassion. Uh,
Hmm.
and in that, we see that that's also a component within how we end up to be able to connect with ourselves, be able to help other people. If we're compassionate, that also breeds compassion with other people because it means sitting alongside somebody with their burden. And it's
Hmm.
also looking at developing your own self trust. And if you can trust yourself first, now you can start trusting other people. So the premise behind it all is transformation and reconciliation within yourself and growth.
So smart. Some good words of wisdom. And I love that you've taken breaks for yourself of I need to figure out who I am. I need to go through my own self-discovery. I need to get back to center because it is hard to have relationships with other people when you haven't yet taken care of
Yeah,
yourself first. So kudos to you,
absolutely.
Brad. Kudos to
Yeah,
you for knowing yourself well to say, you know what, I need to do this for me. I need to do this for me first.
I
I need
think
to
the
focus
last
on my current set.
I think the last thing for me, I'm sorry, was we all talk about our armor that we end up putting on. We put our warrior suit on, we go into work. The problem becomes is we bring that home, and it doesn't allow us that connection with those that we love. And that
Yeah.
was the problem that I had for a long time. And that's where heart set really plays a larger role because
Hmm.
being able to shed that armor enables you to connect with people, and that's what you really want.
Right. So true. Yes. As my good friend Carl Sean Watkins says, vulnerability is not a weakness, it's a strength of yours.
Absolutely,
And people will connect with you through your vulnerability. And we tell you it's very true.
absolutely right.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Brad, for
Thank
being
you.
on Tisha Talks Live today. I can't wait to meet you in person, my
I
friend.
know. I'm excited.
Bye.
Totally
Yes.
excited.
Yes, very excited to meet you and a whole bunch of people out in Michigan when I am there. And thank you so much if you were tuning into this live or again watching the replay. I know we have people moving in and out. So hopefully you got a lot of great nuggets from this conversation too. I know I took some notes from this as well. But thanks again, Brad. It was such a
Thank
treat
you.
having you on this Friday. Next week, we have another special guest. Brett Packard is going to be talking about dealing with adversity when it comes to sales culture and leadership.
Wow.
So if you are struggling with that, if you're coming up across some barriers or some struggles, then for sure tune into next Friday's live stream. And then July, everyone, I am off. I am off the grid and away from all things technology. So we will not be on. We will resume Tisha Talks coming back in August when the kids are back to school. And we'll have a whole new set of guests coming on board and lots of nuggets to share with all of you. So I just want to say thanks again for being a part of this show. And thanks again to you, Brad, for
Thank
joining me
you.
this Friday. I know you're
Uh,
busy today, and it's so great to have you on. And I appreciate for you for being here.
Thank you, Tisha.
All
Appreciate you,
right.
my friend.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.